Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's NextUp Partners Office Hours. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Sammy Eanes. I am a proud member of NextUp Partners, and I will be your host for today. Now, if this is your first time joining us or you're not that familiar with NextUp Partners, a little bit about ourselves. So NextUp Partners and NextUp Ventures was founded to accelerate innovation in sports. We are a collective of over 50 executives and subject matter experts with experience in sports, marketing, communications, entertainment with a variety of the biggest brands, leagues, and teams in the world. We recognize the gap with how brands could leverage startups to activate in the marketplace, and NextUp is here to connect those dots, bridge those gaps with athletes and brands to make activation turnkey and scalable for anyone. Now, the topic of today's office hours is one of the biggest buzzwords in sports, entertainment, media, you name the industry. This has been a hot topic over the past year plus. I'm talking about NFTs. Now, despite their growth in popularity, there are still a lot of questions about NFTs, including, are they just a fad? Or will NFTs fundamentally change the way we collect, the way we market, the way we communicate, and maybe even do business? Well, joining us here today to help answer some of those questions and get to the nitty-gritty on NFTs are three individuals who have studied, analyzed, and innovated in that space over the past few years. First, join me in welcoming Head of Digital for Fierce Studios NFT. She is a consultant and advisor and an NFT enthusiast, Marisa Skolnick. Marisa, again, thank you for being here, and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your experience with NFTs.
Of course. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. My name is Marisa, here from New York. I have about 16 years plus experience with brand partnerships, advertising, digital investment, and strategy for every single vertical you could probably think of. I've covered everything from fashion to travel to luxury to retail. With that said, I got into the NFT space earlier this year, pretty much similar to most people. Got very into it, addicted to it, like most as well. And I realized kind of just how big of an opportunity this was with my brand hat on and advertising hat on for brands to enter this space and really become this new form of an entire new channel for brands to have an e-com opportunity. So reaching their consumers with a one-to-one kind of communication is something that I see as not only a now, but a very much larger future conversation in terms of how we could have that conversation with brands to reach their consumers through their digital wallets in a really fun way and really unlocking that utility aspect of the NFT space.
Good stuff. Thanks so much, Marisa. Also joining us today are Justin Herzig and TJ Laessig. Now, Justin and TJ are the founders of Own the Moment, the leading content community for NFTs. Gents, thanks for being here today. Same thing, just tell our guests a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Own the Moment.
Sure, I can kick that off there. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us today. TJ Laessig, as Sammy said, co-founder, Own the Moment, where we started back in January as a content and analytics platform for NBA Top Shot, which is one of the largest NFT projects out there. We're very focused on being the number one home and community for sports, NFTs, and gaming. So this includes providing education for users on how they can collect and invest in sports NFTs, and then also includes our own NFT-based fantasy football game that we have created called the Owners Club. We've also worked with some big brands like the Detroit Pistons and Laessig shoes over the past couple of months to help them with their own NFT projects. So excited to dive into all of that today.
Yeah, it sounds good. Thanks, TJ. And I'll just echo that. So TJ and I have known each other for 10, 11 years now and been heavily involved in kind of the sports tech side. I've been involved in blockchain for 7 years now, but this recent wave of NFTs is the first time that we're actually seeing kind of companies and opportunities that are putting the consumer first rather than the technology. And the opportunity with NFTs really does provide not only that kind of the technology aspects of the blockchain, like the tracking, the provenance, the security aspect, but really shifting to where that actual full true digital ownership comes. And hey, when you have Facebook rebranding their name, maybe even today, to move into that metaverse space, NFTs are one of those core components and building blocks that's going to take us to that next step.
I'll also call out that you all have the pleasure of seeing Justin in his Ted Lasso mid costume. So he doesn't always look like this, but usually around November, Justin can be found sporting a nice little mustache.
It's Halloween.
Very impressive.
I love it. Well, again, thanks to each of you for being here today. Now, before we dive in, for our audience members, if you have a question for any of our panelists, drop it in the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom, and we will do our best to get to those toward the end of today's session. So let's go ahead and dive in. TJ, we'll start with you with sort of a basic question. If someone's listening in and they have heard of NFTs, but they maybe don't know exactly what they are or about the space, just answer the simple question for them of what is an NFT, and just give us a brief history of the space.
Yeah, it's a popular question nowadays. And so NFT, first off, stands for a non-fungible token. And what that really is it's a digital asset that sits on the blockchain that cannot be copied or replicated. So this could be, kind of a picture, a video, a song, really any form of digital media. And then through blockchain technology, you're able to prove true ownership of that item. And so then kind of a common question that follows up to that is, well, can I just, right click save or take a screenshot of any of these digital assets and then I own it? And the answer to that is that yes, you could technically screenshot another JPEG of one of these images, but you don't own the underlying asset, which is that token on the blockchain. And so, similarly to how I could put a fake Mona Lisa on my wall, doesn't mean that I own the Mona Lisa. It doesn't have that intrinsic value that really comes with the NFT. And so what we've seen so far to date is just an absolute explosion in NFTs over the past, I would say, 9 months. So we've had over $4 billion in NFT sales to date. A lot of this is being built on the Ethereum blockchain, although we are also seeing some other kind of layer 2 solutions such as Polygon. Solana's become popular lately. You have the Flow blockchain, which was built by Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shot. And so I would say that that's kind of the high level overview. And then why would somebody want to own these is kind of the next question. And Justin will dive a little bit more into later on into kind of how we value these NFTs. But really it comes with not just about the digital art itself, but it's almost like buying yourself into a community that has extra utility associated with it. So oftentimes when you purchase an NFT from an NFT project, you then become a member of this exclusive club, if you will. And that could come with, free like airdrops where you receive additional NFTs for being a member of that community. It could come with real world in-person experiences that you get exclusive access to as an owner of the NFT. So we'll dive into some of that more. Justin and I have been heavily focused in the sports space. Marisa, I know that you've been involved in the fashion side of NFTs as well, if you want to talk a little bit about that next.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, I think the number one question I always get from friends, family, and colleagues of why people purchase NFTs, just to go back to that question too. Number one question is, why would I purchase an NFT that lives on my computer? Where if it's a piece of artwork, why can't I just, or why wouldn't I buy a physical piece and put it on my wall? And I think the answer is pretty simple. I think that we have all moved into this digital world where social media is how we connect. And it's the same reason when you do go out with your friends, your family, and you're taking pictures, there's not many people that are going out and developing their photos and putting them in frames and putting them in their homes. And if they do, they probably have 10 to 20 people that come over and they see that. Where in the NFT space, we're able to now make these cyber galleries that people could come and view your collections. And it becomes kind of, TJ, to your point, like part of this community, but also part of your personality. Your collections really do start defining who you are and the things that you're interested in. And it does become a little feather in your hat of the type of art that you're collecting. So that to me has been my simplest answer of this whole world is turning digital. Why not have it within the art and finance and tech space, right? And it's the first real opportunity where all three of them are combined, I think.
It's funny that you say that because I've now, now that all my friends know that I'm into the NFTs thing, I'll get that same question. But then I literally was at a friend's house the other week and we're sitting in a circle showing each other our phones of the NFTs that we own. And then the people that didn't get it are like, oh, wait, I actually feel kind of out of the loop right now. I don't have an NFT on my phone that I could show to people. So it is, it's kind of a hard concept to wrap your head around, but it is interesting. And like when I go on my Twitter, all I see are people that have these profile pictures as their avatar. And Twitter has even come out and said that they are going to be adding a verification process where you will be able to link your Twitter account to your wallet, your Metamask wallet, and then you will have like a little check mark that verifies that, yes, this user does own that NFT, so that, again, I can't just take a screenshot of a CryptoPunk and make it my avatar without, like, I could do that, but I wouldn't get the verification.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I think what we're seeing today is the people who are involved in this right now, I would consider the power user, the mega fans. And so the mega fans of different areas. So maybe it's from the sports side and you're the kind of, hey, I'm a huge NBA fan. I've been collecting, basketball cards my life. So now I got a Top Shot for those digital collectibles. Maybe I'm a big music fan of someone like Justin Blau, who actually has turned his music into NFTs. And because I'm a fan of him, I want to prove and show everyone that, hey, I'm a huge fan, so I buy that. And then maybe this artist, I'm the front edge of, art, so I want to get in on the ground floor, the future of digital art, so I'm in there. Everyone that is in there right now, they've got some kind of, as I mentioned, like that power user aspect, but this is just the very beginning, because this is that early, this is before the even adoption waves begin. That next wave is when you have people who are coming in for the more kind of passive aspects, but it takes those ideas of alternative investing and turns it into, combines it with their passion, their knowledge, their experience. Now I can maybe have some kind of a speculative asset, but it's also tied to something that I'm passionate about, such as maybe a sports aspect, a music aspect, a fashion aspect, an art aspect, or a whole lot of other opportunities that are coming up, even in the nonprofit space. But it allows me to combine my knowledge and experience with kind of maybe an investing, speculative collecting world.
All super fascinating stuff. And again, for our guest today, don't forget, if you have questions for Marisa, Justin, or TJ, drop them in the Q&A section and we will do our best to get to them toward the end of today's session. Now, we referenced NBA Top Shot a little bit earlier. I think for a lot of folks, even if they've heard of NFTs but aren't quite sure what they are, Top Shot is kind of that one that is broken through a little bit to more of the mainstream. Justin or anyone else, feel free to chime in on this. What have they done so well to be successful early on in this space? And then maybe give some examples of some other brands that you've seen that have successfully activated using NFTs.
Yeah, and I'll jump in. I mean, so like the idea of blockchain technology, Bitcoin white paper was 2009. Ethereum really started popping up around like 2013, 2014. Enterprises have been using this for the past, I'd say, 5 years, more in the kind of back end supply chain, financial services infrastructure. It has value, but the reason why we really haven't seen it in our day-to-day applications is because it's still a very bulky, very cumbersome, very confusing technology. What Top Shot was able to do is say, hey, we're not really worried about the technology aspect. There are value from it, from that security, the provenance, all those features, all those components. But what we care about is creating a great user experience. And so Top Shot did a fantastic job of really masking the blockchain, putting it behind the scenes so you wouldn't even know you were using it. They made that experience similar to the expectations that consumers have nowadays from the Amazon, from the Facebooks, from the Googles. I log in, I want to buy something, I can buy with credit card. I don't need to worry about the gas aspects or the crypto side of things or the MetaMask address, all these terms that majority of people don't even know what they are. And when you start digging into them, you only come up with more questions. So they did a great job of just making it a very easy onboarding experience. And that's why they were able to bring in hundreds of thousands of users in less than a month. And obviously there's additional challenge stuff, but what we've seen is kind of the domino effect or kind of the fast follower effect is other companies started realizing, hey, we can actually do similar to what Top Shot did. We're making it that smooth onboarding experience, focus on the actual product and user experience, and just use the technology as an enabler. And I think that's why they've seen such success, and why it's also grown in such a quick adoption standpoint beyond just them, but the larger ecosystem.
Yeah, and just to add to that, besides having a seamless ability to purchase through fiat USD, the other thing is I think they made NFTs really relatable, right? So like not everyone is an art collector and understands historical appreciation and valuation over time, but everyone knows that either themselves or their brother, whoever, was trading baseball cards and doing that as they were a kid. So NBA Top Shop took that concept and they created the opportunity for people to buy, trade, do offers on real world things that people are interested in now that they could relate to when they were younger. So I think it was just a really tangible effect that was easy for people to wrap their head around, where not everyone is understanding why someone would buy a JPEG of a crypto fund, right? And now I wish that we all did, but that's probably also the other reason as well, besides the seamless transaction, but also just a really easy thing to wrap your head around of why these clips and these highlights have value to them the way that baseball cards did. And still do.
Absolutely. And I can share a little bit. Let me go ahead. I think the screen share works now. Okay, cool. So I guess first off, here's just a wild combination of a ton of different projects that we've seen out there in the NFT space. So we have this concept of the NFT Avatar Project, which has become super, super popular. It's pretty standard. Essentially what these projects do is that they mint 10,000 of these avatar NFTs, and then it's kind of a randomly assigned group of traits, so that you could end up getting, you know, the Bored Ape that has the hat and a cigarette in the mouth kind of thing. So you get assigned these random group of traits. We've also just seen the classic kind of digital art, and then we see it with major brands, professional sports teams, and athletes. So, you know, of course, with something like NBA Top Shot, we have officially licensed NFTs by the NBA. We also have the same thing coming up between the NFL and Dapper Labs, but then we're also seeing individual athletes on an individual basis minting their own NFT projects. And on top of that, with the recent changes to NIL, we're even able to see this from college athletes and high school athletes, which is interesting and gives these athletes an opportunity to further engage their fan base, no matter kind of where they are at in their career. I think it creates a good opportunity where historically we see the top tier athletes be able to really kind of benefit financially from their careers. But if you're more of that middle tier, you may still have a very active fan base that enjoys, you know, the way you play in your community, etc. But you don't really have a way to capitalize on that, either from a fan engagement standpoint or from a monetization standpoint. So NFTs has really opened the doors for athletes of all levels and just creators of all levels outside of sports too. And, you know, talking a little bit more about how we value NFT, and I can kick it over to Justin, but we, you know, did a research study on over 100 of these projects and kind of came up with this formula that we believe is how you think about the value of an NFT. And Justin, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, and so we call this the Nft Value Theorem, and we think it has really two core components, or two kind of goals to come out of this. One is from an actual consumer standpoint, as you saw, like all those on the previous page, that's probably about 100 or change. There's now been like 15 to 20,000 of these different NFT projects pop up. And with so many of those, it's very difficult to understand, like, okay, which of these are kind of legitimate and which of these are kind of not good, trash, whatever you want to call it. And so we did a study to try to figure out like what leads to ones being successful, so that when people want to get into this space, they're more informed, they're more knowledgeable. The second is on the other side, for the people, for the brands, for the legitimate companies, for the legitimate projects that want to build successful NFT projects, we want to help them understand what's important to actually, you know, gain the trust, to build that community, actually build a successful project. And so we've actually, you know, there's a lot more information. Happy to talk offline to really go into details, but the three core components of this are speculative value, aesthetic value, and utility. And the formula works such that the speculative value is the core component. If that is zero, if there's no belief that this is going to have value tomorrow, then the entire formula goes to zero. If aesthetic or utility is zero and the other one has fun, there's still a possibility that there will be value here. When we think of speculative value, this goes into things such as like, who are the team behind it? What does their roadmap look like? What technology are they building on top of? What levels of partnerships do they have? What connections, intellectual property? What is their ability to garner media, brand awareness, etc.? Aesthetic value is a bit more subjective, but it's about, what do you actually like? Like, does this look like a legitimate piece of, that you're proud to hold? This one obviously has a level of subjectivity, but it is still very important. And you can see some interesting comparisons, like with the NBA teams. Some went old school and released something that looked like a kind of a Super Mario game, and then some went new school and made it a bit more 3D. Which one appeals to you? I'm not sure, but like, you get that kind of options. And the last one is utility. And this utility aspect is one of the ones that's probably the most difficult and expensive to get right, but if done right, has the extremely strong driving power. This utility can be real physical utility. You buy a CryptoPunk and you can actually get custom made shoes from a company that matches your CryptoPunk. It can be digital utility, where in the metaverse, maybe you buy a Tesla in real life, and now you're able to get a Tesla NFT that you can drive into the metaverse, and that has that utility, that digital utility, so you can kind of show off your Tesla in the metaverse. And the last one is actually around speculative utility, which we're starting to see, where maybe it actually, let's say you go to an Indy 500 race and you buy the NFT of the number 23 car. And if that car wins, you now get another NFT that is actually a trophy because he's won. Or maybe you get a meet and greet or something. But real world opportunities to kind of tie these purchase opportunities, to these purchase experiences, to either real world opportunities, digital opportunities, something further. And there's a lot more complexity in this, but we try to just boil it down to those three core areas. So when projects are really trying to figure out, how do I build something successful, I can kind of know which levers, which strings to pull on.
All great insights. And for me, that's one of the most exciting things about NFTs. It's just the world of possibilities, just like you guys articulated in answering that. So put yourself in the shoes of our guests and our listeners who are excited. They want to go out as soon as office hours are over. They want to buy their first NFT, but they have no idea what to do. They've never done it. Just give some step-by-step instructions on what they can do to purchase their first NFT.
I can take this, unless you want to, Marisa. Go for it.
Well, I was going to say the number one thing that we always tell people is to do your own research, right? So we're not here to give any investment suggestions, but doing your own research is key. Besides the technical side of things with setting up your either Coinbase or different wallets that match up to your Metamask, is usually the typical wallet that people use to translate over to the marketplaces to actually purchase your NFTs. Doing your research is imperative, as Justin said, learning who the team is behind it. There's a term in the NFT space called rug pulls, where there are creators that produce collections, whether they're anything from 8,000, 10,000, like we saw, that will just do a quick dump of their collection. And then they have actually no roadmap and they have actually no utility tied to their collection. And they're just there for a rug pull to kind of do a cash grab, is what we call it. Going on Twitter, looking at their website, seeing what their roadmap is, looking at the art itself, and just trying to figure out kind of who's involved in the project is so crucial. But that would be my overall, besides getting into the actual technical and logistics on how to purchase one.
Yeah, fantastic advice there. And then to get more into the weeds, technically speaking, so the first thing that you need to do is to open up a MetaMask wallet. So you can go to metamask.io. Really, what this is essentially if you're on desktop, a Chrome browser extension that kind of takes you into what they call, quote unquote, Web3. So by opening up a MetaMask wallet and then logging in on that browser extension, you are now kind of logged into the Web3 version of yourself. And this is where, if you have any cryptocurrency sitting in that wallet, or you have any NFTs sitting in that wallet, the browser is able to identify that. And then for the most part, you're going to want to go to OpenSea.io for any of your purchasing, shopping needs. Here's where you can explore a bunch of different NFT projects. So as you can see, number of different things going on here, and you can click on them. And then again, you can buy, sell, list by logging into your MetaMask wallet. As you see up here, my MetaMask browser extension is there. And a very, very important thing is that when you open a MetaMask wallet, you are going to see something called a seed phrase, which is basically 12 words. And this is like the most important thing when you're opening your wallet, because that is your password recovery, right? It's not like a bank or even like Coinbase, where if you forget your password, you just email support and they allow you to reset your password. There is, because of the Web3 being decentralized in that nature, that does not exist. So that seed phrase, you need to write it down in multiple places, physically, not digitally, and make sure that you keep that. It's something that we've seen with some of the non-crypto native people getting in here. We even had someone DM us one time and say, "What? This is so stupid. Why do I need to memorize a 12-word phrase? Can't I just click on pictures of a fire hydrant?" Because they thought that it's like the bot CAPTCHA. But no, this is actually super, super important. And yeah, so get yourself a MetaMask wallet. You can then transfer funds there from your Coinbase account. And then that's where you do all of your shopping. And then I guess my last thing, and Justin, it looks like you're going to say something. Last thing is the concept of gas fees. So anytime that you go to make a transaction on any blockchain, but especially on the Ethereum blockchain, you're going to pay what they call gas, which is essentially just the cost of doing business on the blockchain. So you have to pay a fee in order to make any transactions. And sometimes the gas fees can be pretty outrageous, especially nowadays with all the action going on there.
Yep. And think of it like the AOL. At the end of the day, logging in right now is like AOL. It's still very early. In the future, we're already seeing Twitter's going to implement NFTs, Coinbase, GameStop are already building, Instagram's building their own NFT marketplaces. We're still so early. So if this seems a bit complex right now, that's just because there's still a level of friction because we're so new to this space. In a year, in 2 years, it's going to be so different and such an easier experience.
Yeah, and just with all that said, be careful too, because it is so new and there's not even as many regulations as to come, and there's a lot of spam and fraud. So nobody will ever ask you for your seed phrase ever. And if someone does, they are trying to get into your wallet and take your money. So never give that up. Be careful. Like I said, do your research. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different marketplaces. TJ showed OpenSea, but there's a number of them. When you first go to a website and you first mint and then go to secondary marketplaces, there's Nifty, there's Rarible, there's Mintable, there's plenty. And it's really, as Justin mentioned earlier too, it's what you relate to and the type of art that you want to collect and kind of what fits with what you feel is going to have that historical value for yourself.
All good and fascinating stuff. Thank you all for your insights. Again, this is such a fascinating world and so many different aspects and applications. I think we could talk for another hour plus on it, but unfortunately we are out of time for today's office hours. Marisa, Justin, TJ, thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your insights and knowledge about NFTs. And thanks to all of our guests for joining us this afternoon. Don't forget, mark your calendars, Wednesday, November 17th. That is our NextUp Ventures online demo day. Again, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.